Yeah, it's.
And
I guess
we are
it's similar
live.
No, we're not.
Hey.
It's a lie.
We can actually start talking about
Very
things that
questionable.
aren't random book topics.
When has that
Apparently
ever happened?
so. Anyway, guys, welcome to a new episode of Push to Talk. Eric is out doing random things. I picked up the mantle here for this week, but we have a whole bunch of people.
Eric's not doing random things. He's self-quarantining.
I mean, he may be self-quarantining
right,
for sure. That could well be the case. But yeah, we have, going down the list, we have Arendus, we have Bard, we have Caleb, we have Dirk Steele, we have RJ here.
Hi.
We have Mist as well. We also have Jintan here and Sothrasil. So, a lot of cool people.
You forgot his title.
So what now? Oh, the Angry
You forgot
German.
Jintan's title.
Oh, okay. And Jintan, the title that I made for him, the influencer.
Yeah.
I thought we were just going with the walking meme and calling it good.
Isn't that what you call an influencer today?
Pretty much, I just sell memes.
If it was easy to monetize the whole meming, you would be so rich, Jintan.
I mean, it would have been very easy. All CCP would have had to do is make like a gold jacket in game. Think about how much money that could have made CCP after that AT. Would have been sweet.
Would that be
It's not like they'd get Monocle Gate all over again.
Wait. Trigger alarm. Trigger alarm. He said the A word.
We are all addicts here, Sothrasil. It's fine. This is a safe space.
Hi, my name is Caleb.
And I am an...
I don't know. I took like a month's break in between December and January. I'm good. I can quit EVE Online whenever I want.
That's definitely something that an addict says.
That's the point. That's the joke. Congratulations. That is the 5th joke you've killed in the past 10 minutes. You want a medal?
You don't want to see his metrics on a year-to-year basis.
There are no instances of Stockholm Syndrome in this channel, we swear.
It's Reykjavik syndrome.
Which is like
that
the
what they
same
call it,
thing, just
coronavirus?
stage 3 or something.
It's like the same thing, except not only is it stage 3, at the first sign of confirmed case, everything gets canceled.
Also, you actually pay to stay with Reykjavik Syndrome. That's the worst part.
And get drunk.
Well, here you pay to not go.
It's because nothing gets refunded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, I suppose we should probably talk about that real quick for anybody viewing that hasn't heard somehow. If you haven't heard, I'll be amazed, but FanFest 2020 has officially been cancelled by CCP. That news came out yesterday. If you have bought tickets to FanFest, they will be refunding everything through Eventbrite, at least. But you're kind of on your own when it comes to getting refunds for flights, accommodation, anything else you may have had booked. There are a number of people who are planning on just going anyway. So there will be EVE nerds around if you are in that situation of not being able to get things refunded and are going to want to go. But yeah, I think generally the consensus in the room, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the consensus in the room is that this was kind of a sensible decision from CCP. like, 1,000+ EVE nerds being jammed into an island and then congregating in relatively small rooms was probably a bad thing to do in the current atmosphere. And at the very least, they've given us plenty of notice.
Yeah, this isn't like a conference of everybody who washes their hands religiously on a daily basis and everything else. It is, I would say, a higher risk group than the majority of people.
But that's okay, because a lot of people are still going.
I will say,
let's not go there.
Let's just all feel really sorry for the people who are truly going to be out on a limb here, and that is the drug dealers of Iceland, because they were probably stockpiling up. There's going to be cocaine,
Just for you, Jim.
weed, just like going for clearance rates for the next 3 months in Iceland.
Just remember that if they had prepared, right, and they overstocked, that's going to mean that the local addicts are going to benefit from this immensely, right? They're basically going to get a lot cheaper drugs than usual.
I vaguely remember reading about how FanFest actually sits on the end, coming up to the end of the tourist season. That's why everyone likes it so much, because it is a shot in the arm for the tourist industry before it all starts to get busy and stuff. I don't know if that's still correct as of late.
You never fucking know.
I'm going to say the tourist industry for the next probably 6 or 7 months is going to be tanked, or even longer.
Yeah, basically everywhere, though.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
and
what else do
other
we have?
Iceland news.
Oh.
The CSM Summit is happening this week. So, like, if you guys are out there watching the stream and going, I have a really pressing question that I think CCP need to hear about, you should probably reach out to your CSM representatives, because they're going to be stuck in conference rooms with CCPers for the next week. And I have to say, I send my commiserations to them for that. They do a really good job representing us, and I hope the conference rooms aren't too sweaty.
Full of awfulness. Yeah. I think you got that all wrong, Duxter, because clearly they're just going to go and have a free holiday up in Iceland.
Oh, obviously,
I mean,
yeah. That's what the CSM is, isn't it? It's 2 years. It's 2 holidays a year for absolutely free, no obligations or anything.
Just to clarify, this is the second summit this year, right?
Yeah,
This is the second summit of the CSM 14.
Sorry, yes. Yeah. So this would be right as we're coming up on the war that was supposedly started between Vili and Sort from the first summit, is concluding right as they go into the second.
Actually, I think it started over something on a conference call, not during the summit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
like-
a conference call.
Vili flipped out only like 8 weeks ago or so.
Is that
really,
it?
That short?
Yeah, really. It was just before New Year, kind of in that between Christmas and New Year period, is when
it was
he
in
posted to Reddit.
December the 28th.
I'm sure if someone were anal enough and detail-oriented enough, they could go digging through the Meta Show archives to find. I'm waiting for Kate.
No, I don't want to do a McLeod jab there, but it's almost too easy.
But
Hey,
if
hey,
you guys
hey,
have
hey.
if you guys have no clue what these guys are talking about, Darkness Dot is disbanding.
Apparently.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because Darkness has been a major sov holder for a very, very long period of time. You might not remember it, but back in, what was it, like 2012, 2013, Darkeshi was the old coalition that used to be run by Sword Dragon, and that was just after he created the alliance post the Delve 2012 thing. Not Delve 2012, actually. The war between the Honey Badger Coalition and the CFC, which led to Sword Dragon falling out of power for a small period of time, and then he started up another coalition, made Darkeshi. Darkeshi died. He made GOTG after that, renamed it to Deadco, and now he's lost coalition again. It's been a very wild ride for him.
That said, this one survived, what, 5-ish years?
Survived like 3 fucking invasions, like, give him his due.
Oh yeah, it's been persistent as fuck,
Yeah, no,
and
good job. It's just pressure eventually gets to you.
Well, I think the main thing that really got him was the fact that he really did have competition in his time zone, finally, with the rise of the new Chinese forces, and in addition, the kind of consolidation of PanFam.
I'm sorry, Deodorant, but we don't associate with that website at all.
oh, shut up, so. Stop being dramatic.
What website is that?
REF.
Right, here is the link. The Reddit post is a leaked ping from Sort to his corporate CEOs in Darkness. But
he did later confirm it.
It has been confirmed in a number of places, and so yeah, this is going to be an interesting few weeks, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who ends up taking the space in Decline, to a lesser extent Fade, although I think a lot of that will be taken by the people who have been at war with Sword Dragon in the Northwest for a long time. So people like UFC, Bandalogs, FXR, they'll probably move in and take Fade. But the real question is, A, who ends up holding Branch, and who ends up taking Decline? Because I don't think...
I see Winter Coalition moving further west, at the very least. I reckon Winter Co move from Tenal into Deck. I'm not sure about Branch. We'll see.
I don't see Winterco moving out of Oasa though, because they have all their infrastructure set up there and they're doing really well in that location.
And it's a pretty nice place to be.
It also means that they're not going to be immediately on the front lines of any war, and I think after how the Legacy Winter War turned out, that might be on the front of people like Norris's mind. Like, they've already had the experience of being a buffer empire, and it didn't go well for them.
This is very true.
But, I think we'll see the Veni Vidi Vici and, Northern Moon Stars. I don't know what their alliance name is, sorry, off the top of my head. They'll probably take Tenal. I had an interview with them recently, and that was what they confirmed was their public intent, was just to take Tenal. Maybe they'll take a bit of Branch too, just to make sure that they have that full jump range lockdown. But what happens to Western Branch, what happens to Decline, that's going to be very interesting, because I don't think PanFam will want to overextend into that territory.
You've got to think that Caladrius probably use this as an opportunity to kind of grow their Sov a bit. Obviously, Caladrius were in Deadco up until 3 weeks ago, somewhere in that time scale, and they're a Japanese alliance. So I reckon Caladrius will probably use this to kind of cement themselves in PanFam a little bit as a buffer alliance, and calling it kind of good in that sense. Just because they have joined PanFam now, they seceded away at just before Ranger Regiment, Iron Crown, and Dracarys came south.
Yeah, I guess looking at a little bit more of the wider picture, we enter kind of a 3 kingdoms period again in EVE Online, instead of a 3.5 kingdoms. We've got PanFam, we've got Legacy, we've got the Imperium. I'm pretty sure if any 2 of those coalitions joined up, they could beat the other one. That's my kind of personal opinion. I think PanFam plus Legacy beats Imperium. I think Imperium plus Legacy beats PanFam. We know that to be the case. And I think Legacy plus PanFam also beats the Imperium, most likely.
This is going to be an interesting one, because obviously we've seen a situation similar to this a few years back. And that didn't necessarily play out as well for the people who banded up last time as they expected.
Are you talking about Honey Badgers?
Yeah, we're talking about the Money Badger Coalition.
Oh yeah,
and the way Test and CO2 were treated initially versus how they were treated
at the end.
You know, only
the money
after-
badger coalition was very, very different to what I'm talking about. This is more akin to what developed on the Chinese server before the PIBC.
Those are dangerous words.
Sure, but it's the best analogy we have. Like if we go further back into say like 2011, we can't like the coalitions weren't as widely like formed and as solidified as they are now in terms of how strong their allegiance is, in terms of how universal their infrastructure is. So I'm just going to use the Serenity as the example, but you go ahead.
The other thing, Jintan, is like you know the fact that we have had you know a large amount of Chinese players come over, you know, from Serenity. Like you can't say that they've left all their politics back in the Serenity server. They brought it
Absolutely
with them.
fucking haven't.
Exactly. So, you know.
But the thing is, like back in 2011, 2012, you actually had good reasons to keep invading, to keep getting more space, right? What reason do you now have to take on like 5 more regions?
I don't think that's the point anyway. I don't think we want these larger empires to want to expand in the first place. I don't think that's the way you actually make wars happen. But this is probably a good transition onto another topic. Because I know Caleb, you have opinions on what these new economic changes that have also been announced are going to do to wars. But I'll give my little piece here first, if that's okay.
Sure.
And my kind of perspective, I'm not going to talk about the economic changes in particular, but this will be a nice segue. My personal perspective on what causes wars is typically wars are better for the game and more interesting for players when they aren't something that is driven by strategic objectives, but when they are something that's almost stumbled into. When wars start because you're trying to punch your neighbor in the face, basically. When you're just doing these small tactical objectives, that creates drama. That drama leads to anger between two entities, and that leads to a war, rather than people saying, we need this strategic objective to survive. Let's amass as many forces as we can, take that strategic objective, hold it, present no ability for our opponents to fight against it. That normally creates very one-sided, very stompy wars, like we have seen in the past basically 2 to 3 years. We have seen wars over strategic control of specific areas, and it has always been some of the worst fighting in the world. Like, it's been shit that no one wants to actually do again. Does anyone want to have another X-47 fight? I don't think so.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the Fountain War was a strategic war.
When was that?
Fountain War was
2013.
Yeah,
but that's because we were... I don't really recall what the Fountain War was over, so can you refresh the audience?
Moons.
That's not really a strategic objective, though. I don't consider that strategic. Like, old moon systems are were not strategic. You didn't need those to live.
You absolutely did. Like, that amount of moons, it basically gave the CFC a hold over certain materials that only they had in their region, owning Fountain and Declan.
And it brings on the whole topic of the fact that I think Jintan is right. It should be it shouldn't be resources or scarcity or depletion or things like that, or even any monetary goal that sets off war. But it is something that's required to sustain war, right, and to give win or lose conditions. Because if you compare to the thing that's been referenced before, the whole Baku oil fields in World War II, which I'm kind of
oh my
trying to point
fuck's sake, Caleb.
No, but let me finish. The war did not start because of a lack of oil, right? And the point is that even though you start a war on things like drama, which is usually the case, then it ends on things like resources and win conditions.
Yeah, but like, wars don't only start because of drama. Like, again, the Fountain War. Like, Mittani straight up went out and said, there's no particular reason for this war except we want those moons.
We like money. Let's have money.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's a strategic asset. We want those strategic assets.
And if we're looking for reasons other than strategic assets to fight, and it comes down to, oh well, there's just this difference of opinion that causes a fight. Each of the large organizations has a diplomatic corps that actively works to resolve those differences.
I swear to God, Orendis, I am gonna beat you over the head with a baseball
Just
bat.
give you more work.
Like, fuck that.
And I'm
we
not
want
just
to
saying
shoot
that to,
people.
and I'm not just saying that to trigger Dirk. I'm saying that to trigger Dirk and to annoy him.
Like, nobody's out here trying to stop us shooting people. There are situations where diplomatic corps are negotiating agreements that will, for example, stop us shooting one another's structures or SOV. That's generally designed to create a relatively stable border and ensure that when we actually are fighting these people, everyone knows this is kind of on the up and up. We're just gonna come here, have a brawl, have some fun. Nobody's here trying to take your space. Nobody's here saying drop supers on us every single time we turn up. We just want to have some fun here. That's normally the intention there. And sometimes it goes further than that. Sometimes it doesn't hold.
Right.
And
that's exactly the sort of scenario that creates the impression of the blue donut. That people aren't fighting for real, it's just for funsies.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time,
Well, no, but
to...
Those are blue trolls. That's what that term is.
No. Look, okay. So basically, everybody in this channel is experienced and has a familiarity with the way with the way shit actually works in nullsec and how people interact. The majority of EVE players who complain about the blue donut do not fall into that category. They have no idea what they're talking about, and they're working from generalization. And that's why you get this false impression.
All right, real quick, before anybody else jumps in. Varag101 in Twitch chat says, Diplo goes too far if you have to organize fights. Should it not be organic? And can I just say that I have never, ever come across the need to organize fights based on a diplomatic situation.
Typically, organizing fights goes down between FCs anyway. Like, you can never really stop that, and it's mostly because FCs don't want to actually have to go out and put in effort and create structure fights, because realistically, there's very few
structure fights
left in the game
now.
Yeah, there's basically very few objectives that you can go out, actually hit, and get a decent fight out of that isn't going to be either A, not responded to, or B, responded to with overwhelming force. Those are your two options. And
nobody's
also
brawling over
in your time
Hell's
zone.
Uncle Blue Balls, right?
Yeah, you can no longer, like, say I'm an EUTZ guy, I want a fight on the weekend. I can't go out on Thursday or Friday with a fleet that's like slightly off time zone and guarantee myself something where, I know I might not get a 2000 Sunday timer, but, maybe I'll get 1700 or 2200, and that's doable for me. You can't really do that anymore because the timers that you actually do generate don't mean fuck all.
I just think there's a limit to how much this game is going to work if we all operate on this Valhalla model, where everyone can just be raised the next morning for the next fight, and where you pretty much only get gameplay from LOL fights, right? It just doesn't work in the simulation. It doesn't create the drama and the narrative that's needed to actually sustain EVE if everything is just worthless.
All right, question for the FCs in the room, and I know that this is a bit of a weird one, but also comes from Twitch chat. Do you think massively, overwhelmingly nerfing movement, as in jump drives and jump gates, could cause more organic fights?
Fuck no.
No.
I'd say the opposite is true.
Maybe jump drives to a degree, but not massively overwhelmingly.
No, I'm just arguing that nerfing movement is definitely not a way forward, and I think both the FCs and CCP will agree.
I mean, yeah, this is one of those things, right? If you're in a subcap fleet and you have to go, say, 30 jumps to find your fight, which is, it definitely wasn't uncommon in Delve 2 years ago, at the very least. Our jump gate network has only grown and become more developed, but, if you've got to go 30 jumps to get to any sort of decent fight, who the fuck wants to go 30 jumps just for a fun fight? A lot of people don't want to do it.
Well, it depends.
And half of it's typically through your space, so that you're not going to get any content on the way.
Yeah, and
it depends entirely. Sorry, go for it, Jim.
I want to bring up the common counterpoint that is thrown out to that Dirk, so that I can dismantle it, which is just unblue people near you, herder. And that would work, but that would only work if things like jump ranges didn't exist, because if you want to ensure that people can't put super capitals right on the doorstep of your central strategic holdings, you need to have blues for a large range of jumps around you, just due to how the actual geography of EVE Online functions.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that. People just look at a map and think, oh, if you're 10 jumps away, surely that means you're going to be out of jump range, or 20 jumps away.
Then don't blue half the map. I love that.
Yeah, it's funny.
Let's talk about how many blues the Imperium has. The Imperium has less blues now than it has pretty much ever had in the past. But you're still talking about going from 1DQ to just into is it Paragon Soul right down next to period basis? I think that. Yep. Yeah, Paragon Soul. Into Paragon Soul and then into Esoteria. From 1DQ to the edge of period basis, you're talking about taking a jump bridge and then another, I think it's 12 jumps off the top of my head. So you're 13 jumps just to even start getting into neutral space.
This isn't even something that's unique to the Imperium. I can call back to my time being an FC in Providence, and I don't think anyone will argue that Providence has a massive block or tons of well, they do have tons of blues, but you know what I mean there. They aren't like some massive empire. We staged an F-TAC-Y, getting to the nearest place where we would get content, which would typically be head or G tag, depending on the era. Bard Ghost, please fucking sort your mic out.
Wait, what?
Bard, you're hot micing like crazy. Even though this is push to talk.
Anyway, so it would still take us about 20 jumps to get to that range. That's still a long time. And whilst, you can use jump bridges and stuff to get around that, it's just the nature of holding regions is going to cause you to and wanting to put your staging in the central jump point of your region is always going to cause a lot of travel time.
Yeah, see, this is the question. When you're building up infrastructure, you want your central staging to be central so that you can defend the entirety of your space. You're always planning against somebody attacking you and not you being in an area but not caring about it and being able to attack other people. So, and I think this is part of why the filaments were so popular at Christmas time. Obviously, the Needlejack filaments just came in earlier this week. That's still news.
I don't know. I don't think it's jump ranges that really has that has made the Needlejack kind of filaments or the previous
not
filaments
jump ranges,
before.
But the speed.
No. I mean, maybe, but I think it's more being able to basically circumvent people's almost instant Intel networks. You don't.
It's definitely part of it.
And that's the thing. It's kind of
not McCloud. It's definitely travel time. Just think about it. If you have to go half an hour to just get where you could get some kills, or you could just push a button, which one would you choose?
I mean, even with wormhole.
Yeah, and
in terms of accessibility,
the low-tech FCs that I know who were using the reindeer filaments and will be using the Needlejacks, they weren't even thinking about Intel networks. They're just not used to dealing with that.
It's just instant insult. It's just instant action.
I mean, it wasn't the Intel networks that were their concern. It was getting them.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, I won't disagree that like Intel networks are a huge problem in the game, though. I just think that the problem is that that conversation has been completely poisoned by the way that CCP tried to address it.
Well,
And
I mean,
the fact that
CCP
there was
tried to
no, like,
address it
middle
with a
ground.
sledgehammer. Like there was no mid ground, and the issue
What's
is
new there?
when it comes. Yeah, I know, but like when it comes to these sorts of things, you don't go full one way or full the other way. That was just CCP and kind of like Hilmar's idea of let's do something crazy.
And just to address Choradon, however you pronounce it in chat, you're not going to deal with Intel tools.
If he's referring to like Intel bots, which they do exist, I'm not going to claim that they don't, then yeah, those things need to be dealt with, and I have no idea how CCP is going to ever do that. But
just introduce
yeah,
delay to the systems.
Wait, are we suggesting that an actual delayed local might be a good idea, McLeod?
I think a 2-minute
rather
delay,
than a no local.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, like actual reasonable. Hi, I can see people in local, just not immediately when they jump in.
I mean, it's something that even Pando has said would be much better than what we have now,
we said that on the show when they announced the blackout.
If you guys want to read up on delayed local as a theme, go back and watch all our shows back at Blackout.
Yeah, we did discuss that to death.
Pretty much all we discussed. Alternative ways that they should have done Blackout.
The thing is, right, when you start discussing that thing in the moment, in the heat of the moment, it's an off the cuff kind of idea, but you never know whether there's going to be massive holes in that scenario, in that situation, or in that idea, until you really think it through. And at this particular point, I'm pretty certain we've thought it through.
Right? The delayed local with 5 minutes has been mentioned every single time we discuss local.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I know, but critical thinking about it. The thing is, critical thinking about it, is different to an off the cuff idea that people kind of go, oh, that's a good idea, etc., and don't really think about it. I think we've discussed, and I think the idea has been discussed by enough people with enough intelligence and poked and prodded by enough people to have for any massive issue with it to be brought into the light of day, right?
So there's two things to that point. Mm-hmm. One is what Big Boy 1290 has said in Twitch chat, which is but CCP is too scared. And
I mean, there's always the CCP.
They're not too scared. This is really the developer effect, which is that CCP don't want to look at implementing ideas that players come up with, even if typically.
It's very likely a technical thing too, right? Because it's like open heart surgery. If you want to introduce something like this, how are you actually going to go about it? And I honestly think that CCP had thoughts of this when they decided what would be the benefits of moving the chat service off of their own servers, right? So there's many things, and I'm pretty sure that they have been playing around with the idea, given that it's a 15-year-old idea.
It's also the developer hour question. How many dev hours do they actually have? How much do they think they're going to get an impact back from their investment of those developer hours? Is delayed local a thing that they should focus on when, I don't know, they could focus on NP 5.0?
Yeah, one of the problems with a game like Eve, that your logic in traditional game development might actually not work. Something that might look like a really costly thing that might not look initially to have a huge effect could actually have a massive positive effect down the line.
I'll be real with you guys. I don't think that ever talking about the internals of CCP and how CCP functions as a company is a productive topic of conversation, because at the end of the day, we have no impact on it, and we never will have an impact on it.
I mean,
sorry to say that, but we can't armchair executive them. We can maybe armchair develop for them, but that's a step too far.
Well, we can point out where those situations can prove to be a bit of a fallacy for them to some degree, maybe. But I don't know. Like, it's obviously, of course, it's up to them to, whether they actually want to take that to heart or not. Like, I mean, I randomly decided, a few weeks ago to plead to CCP to hire an ecologist. I never thought that they would ever do anything like that. But then, they hired CCP Rotati to be basically in charge of the ecology of E, which is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, lip service to that. I don't know. Like, I don't know whether that was just,
right?
Yeah, it's close enough for me to call mission accomplished. I don't know whether that was just, serendipitous. But I don't know. But even so.
Two things. One, they didn't just hire him. He's been with the company for a long time.
I know he's been in the company for a long time.
Two, my takeaway from all this is Jin saying we should buy CCP from Pearl Abyss.
By the way, just to comment on something in chat, Defraz War, it is so naive to suggest CCP wouldn't do something because they don't like the fact that players come up with it. Literally, CCPers have said to my face those exact words because they don't like the idea. Like, when a CCPer came to me for a conversation on a potential rebalance of a ship, which happens from time to time, I said, hey, can I put out an article about this? And they said, no, because we don't want it to seem like we're taking stuff from the community because that would encourage people to do that more.
Yeah, time dilation is exactly that.
Yeah, because eventually, if something actually is a good idea and it continues, like active moon mining, that was something that was in the community for years and years and years and years, but it took probably 10, 15 years for it to go from a community suggestion to something that had been brought via players that had joined the development team to become an internal solution. That's
and
how
then they
stuff
fucked
comes
with excavator drones.
Arguably, yes, but also, yeah, Chorodon is probably not wrong. Active moon mining was a mistake.
Oh yeah, looking back at it, yeah,
it really wasn't. Putting that onto their hands and the moon mining change is maybe the most unutilized genius that CCP ever made.
I don't think active moon mining was the mistake. I think the Rorqual, as it was altered, was the mistake. I think active moon mining, if it had still been a matter of exhumers, etc., I think that could have worked really well. I really have issue with the idea of you set this thing up and then just rake in them. That just doesn't work.
The primary issue, though, with active moon mining, and we've touched on this already in terms of the content argument, is
it scales linearly.
Just give me a second. Like, the main problem with active moon mining is that the structures that are engaged in producing a situation for you to actively mine are not content creators.
Okay, but that's not a problem of active moon mining.
It's not a problem of active moon mining. It's a problem of
the structure design.
Yes, I know, Orendis. I wasn't trying to suggest that active moon mining is bad.
The point is that you're kind of conflating a missing feature, right? You're talking about the whole top income levels, which is a problem. I just think that it should be like in real life. That should be a taxation thing. So you can't really opt out, and it's going to be player generated and not something that CCP adds to the game. Because yes, you need a revenue stream if you are a big organization, but that should come from something like taxation, not from being able to take some state-owned asset and then just create value and wealth out of thin air. That's just dumb.
I mean, from my perspective, the reason why I don't like active moon mining is because it took away one of the few ways that you could make PvP finance PvP. Like, fundamentally, that is my main issue with it. It forces PvPers to have to work within a framework of PvE that sustains the PvP. And whilst that's definitely good from like an economic and sociological and ecosystem perspective, and all these wonderful things that are very important to a certain segment of how the population views the game, but it's not fun. That's my counter. It's just not fun.
That was true before too. PvP did not fund PvP. PvE funded PvP. The PvE in the case of the old moon mining, though, was logistics work done by people setting up pauses. This just distributes it to more people.
Fundamentally, the missing feature on PvP is more tied into things like the loot mechanics, right? So it's what do you get on field when you kill someone, and that was brought up by Liz in an article recently. How do you get these things balanced? And I think CCP is actually looking at something to fix this issue, because it's tied to the fact that we have way too many table roles or random number generation things on static tables. It's just wrong. These things need to move into a dynamic thing. And that is related to how you have negative feedback systems, where your loot fairy should try to remove things that are that there's a lot of in the game, right? And not drop that, and only drop the thing that's rare, to have this incentive for the PvP, so more value is left on the field, right? And it's also tied into the fact of destruction values and how these play into it. The PvP versus PvP lifestyle needs to be fixed, because it's broken because of loot tables and treasure tables, and the fact that we've had this antiquated system which is so easy to game.
But just listen to yourself. Like, all you're saying is that you want PvPers to go around and care about PvE stuff.
No, I said the actual opposite, if you knew what I had just mentioned.
Yeah, but
you have a way of obfuscating it somewhat, Caleb. I'm just saying that right now.
You know how a treasure table works from classic pen and paper, right? And you can pretty much cherry pick what you're killing to get the treasure you want if you have a static treasure table. And that is the same thing in EVE. It's what's breaking our mold completely, because you can just figure out how this thing works, figure out how this thing is killable, and then just game the faucet forever.
Yeah, you min-max it, which is something that EVE players are exceptionally proficient at doing.
Yeah, and that's why CCP should have fixed that ages ago. It's a problem that's been in the game since day one, and they've never figured out how to create dynamic tables instead. And it's the same with a semi-dynamic table on the loot fairy, because if you just invert the dependency on whether or not something drops, you will get value on the field when you kill someone, so you have a win condition.
Well, I don't think it was a case of CCP didn't know how to do it. I think it's a case of CCP just designed it to be that way because they thought that it wasn't going to be an issue, like, you know, in the midterm, and then the game kind of spiraled in complexity to the point where, like, they were busy trying to keep other plates spinning rather than this particular one.
Yeah, so it's the power trade thing and the history, right? Because this was not really a massive problem.
Man, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, just jump in.
Can I just ask to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, Caleb? So is what you're saying that you would prefer to have there be a more random production of resources, so that when PvPers run across PvEers, it's more likely that they will get a reward that they can use from PvEers when they're killed?
Yes. And that's by linking it to how unique an item is. Basically saying how many of this item is in the universal game right now. If it's a lot, it gets destroyed. If it's few things, it gets dropped.
I think you're... Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. It's fine.
I think what you're going to run into, no matter how you try to square the circle of PvP paying for PvP, is that that's just not how things work. And if you want that to be how things work, you have to seriously change the way the whole economy is built. Because in a game where PvP pays for PvP, what's the point of industry?
I think I over-exaggerated my point there anyway, Horrendous. I didn't mean that...
Exaggeration in this show?
Yeah. Wow, yeah, shocking.
But you're not the one who makes that point. And a lot of other people who do really mean exactly that. So go on.
My personal take on it is less that PvP finances itself, it's more that PvPing and attacking someone has a financial benefit that is not entirely reliant on having a PvE core. And you might say that stuff like putting down pauses and running reactions and things like that is PvE, but it's a way of doing PvE that doesn't require a large not man hour, but like individual and infrastructure investment, if that makes sense, because you don't just get like as part of your 300 man 500 man PvP alliance, there's going to be a couple of crabs in there, but they're going to be very, very risk averse. They're not going to be the guys going out there and raw calls and doing all that sort of thing, and you have to support them, you have to provide protection for them, all that kind of thing. And that's not what a PvP group wants to do in the game. I'm not arguing that. Sorry,
that's the thing, Gentle. If you think about how things worked with passive mode, you had your specialized groups that took care of the bosses, your logistics guys, right? You had your specialized people that were running jump freighters. You had your specialized groups that were doing industry. That is no longer the case. These days, you have everyone mine. These days, you have everyone doing industry because you have to make money. And
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That is the problem.
But the thing is, diversification has been something that has been, pushed to players to do because CCP enjoys nerfing areas of the game. Like, I'm able to mine because, like, I do PvE in various different forms, and not because there's one particular way that I really like. There's multiple ways that I enjoy PvEing. It's because, like, I can't fully rely on one particular type of income, bringing in money for me in game. Because I don't know if CCB is going to nerf it in some way, shape, or form.
Forcing the player to engage something they don't enjoy, it's just dumb. It just forces people out of the game because they have to do things they don't enjoy.
But the changes that I at least mentioned would not do that. And this is back to what Jinsan was talking about. These things are still going to be tied into PvE dependency, but the fact that there is drops on the field for the winner is an incentive and a motivator for PvP.
So what exactly is the difference to right now? What, like, you get drops on the field right now too. The only difference is right now you know what's going to drop.
Okay, just out of curiosity, why do we need a motivator for PvP?
Because we need the PvP lifestyle to be a possible lifestyle. If you are good at it, it should be a thing that you can live off of. This is really required if you want a raider and Viking-like scenario, which ties into structure and empire building. We need these changes in some form that makes sense. And currently, it's way too linear, way too static, and completely gameable.
Because there have been nomadic, large nomadic, EVE kind of organizations. It's just they have really Black Legion, Pandemic Legion at a particular point. But like, that playstyle as it was is not really viable in the current state of EVE. But it kind of needs to be.
I think it would be more useful to not try and frame things as motivators to PvP, especially not when PvP is the reward. I mean, the idea that you're looking at here is people want to PvP. Therefore, PvP is the thing they want. That is the reward. Well, what you're looking for is enablers. Because providing motivation, they have motivation.
Yeah, it's other players need to motivate.
They don't have.
Because back when those nomadic groups didn't get the large chunk of their kind of operational capital, like from PvP. They got it from contracts. They got it from mercenary contracts. They got it from people going, "You guys are fucking awesome at doing this shit. I have a group of enemies that I fucking hate, and I want you to oppress them."
And the
Here's a bunch of money.
the problem that we run into there is that this is how things happen. Like Eve is a complicated enough and deep enough simulation of socioeconomic warfare on a large enough scale that it mirrors how things actually evolve. Yes, you can have mercenary groups, you can have Viking raiders, but you know what? Eventually the industrial power is going to secure itself against those guys because that's what they do.
Yeah, but it creates a 3 or more pronged scenario, right? Because if you go back to the Viking Age and raiders usually always just want blingy things, right? Because they can then use that as exchange for goods, but it doesn't really feed them, right? This is back to destroying titanium, but dropping factory loot, right? So you have this huge value that you can bring around or move away from the combat field, right? But it doesn't really help you because it doesn't build ships.
But no, Caleb, that's not quite accurate, though, is it? I mean, if you look back, the most successful Viking leaders, the most notorious raiders, blah blah blah, right? The guys who invaded England again and again and again, they weren't just after bling. Yes, a lot of what we'd call the line guys were after bling, but the guys who ran those organizations, the guys who led those assaults, those invasions, they were after crowns.
Yes. And
once they had
eventually, but the point is that at first, when you have the raider mentality, you're after these high valued fungible goods, right?
Sure, but
Yeah, you're whaling.
that's not sustainable over time. And Eve's curve, as we've seen again and again and again, is a vastly accelerated version of real history. So after 17 years, look at it as after 170 years of real time.
Yeah, but the point is that it should create exactly the kind of development and movement and narrative and history as was done in real life. And it is something that gives an incentive for the raiding lifestyle. It's not sustainable. Everyone knows that.
But the raiding lifestyle, the thing is, the raiding lifestyle was all based upon the idea of being able to branch out further and further afield.
And I mean, Caleb, again, think about it. It did 170 years, right? So let's take 900 AD. Viking invasion raids in England are really successful. 1070 AD. How many successful invasions of England are there for the next 1,000 years?
Hardly any. That's the whole
right.
point. But
we
you're still
hit
moving
William
the conditions.
We hit Hastings.
Yeah, but the people that then created the counter to the Viking raiding was the former Vikings.
Yes.
Which is exactly what you kind of want in Eve. You want this opportunity to actually challenge existing groups and existing land, right? You want this opportunity to go in and hurt someone and then figure out this is not sustainable. We have to then figure out how to get allies, how to pay them with the silver, how to then create the armies that invade. This is all tied
we've already passed that
That's
point.
coalition.
Like that's what Eve is right now. We've passed that point.
We're moving into Europe at war as nation states. That's why there's no more raiding. That what you're saying you need to do is, yeah, that was 2015.
You know, like, personally, can we drag this back into the actual game and the things that we would like to see more in the game? Because from my perspective, one of the big perception problems that Eve has right now is the fact that people feel like there is no space or no way to grow as a small challenger entity. And you can argue that, you know, there were no challenger entities in the nation states period. I would disagree with that, but
I would too.
That's something that we can talk about another time. What the best way to encourage the creation of new alliances, new groups in any ecosystem is to reward specialization, because that is the opposite of the system we have now, which rewards a generalized ability to do all tasks.
That's exactly what CCP are doing right now.
Sure,
Is it?
but I think
Yeah, it is.
before you can reward the specialization, I think before you can say, okay, guys, now go get out there and conquer, you need to remove the impediments to conquest. And the impediments to conquest right now are two things. One, really trying to take space is cancerous, be it structure bashing or entosis warfare. Trying to take space is cancerous. It makes you want to go and put your head in a microwave. It's horrible. And two, if you do try, there's a massive super capital fleet that will fall on your head.
And three, once you got the space, you will find out that it's way harder to actually make money with that space than you thought.
And once you have the space, you need to then build those cancerous structures and that massive super capital fleet to hold. We have this stasis because right now the mechanics pretty much require everybody who's got space to uphold the stasis, and everybody who wants space to get fucked. I mean, that's the way the mechanics are right now, and CCP's the only ones who can.
Okay. Right. So, as it is the top of the hour, real quick, we're going to do our final things. One last thing. So, Horrendous, your one last thing?
Delete super capitals.
Okay. But, how about you, buddy? Anything you want to say?
Character transfers with Plex.
I didn't realize that was not a thing anymore.
Yeah, they
That's
released that
officially
this week.
Oh shit! All right. Caleb, what's up? What's your last final thing?
In a simulation game, ecosystem science works.
All right, Doug.
I'm with Horrendous. Delete super capitals.
Number 2 on delete super capitals. All right, fair enough. Eric's here, but like he's muted and deafened. I don't know why. Like I don't know whether he wants to say anything or not.
He doesn't love us anymore.
He's probably coughing too much.
Yeah,
Isn't
probably.
he looking at cheerleaders?
Mist.
I too agree with the deletion of super capitals. Or not even deletion, just do rock calls and just keep nerfing them until they're useless.
Ah, okay. Jen.
Stop using appeals to history.
You always say that.
Sometimes analogies are a bit. Sometimes analogies can be, overly stretched too far to the point where they don't actually function. That would be my final thing anyway. And Soth, what's up? What's your final thing?
One thing we glanced over today is CCP announced an event that's coming up where you can get SP for doing PvP.
Yeah, fuck them.
Please, CCP, give us an option to have Logi get that SP. Like, we love our Logi. Please don't force
isn't
them.
this going to be game to hell?
Shooty ships.
But anyway.
Well, almost certainly. But if you get SP for killing people, logistics don't kill people.
That is true. That is very, very true.
It likes to kill people all the time by not paying attention.
We have people in the Imperium who have played this game for multiple years who don't have a single kill mill on their kill board.
We have people in the Imperium who have been in some of the largest fights in the game and have been in hundreds of fights every year who have never gotten on a kill.
Yeah.
Because they're dedicated Logi pilots.
There are even some of those individuals who have been in Alliance tournament matches and still are not on kill mails.
Yeah, very, very true. And they're normally actually they're normally the most awesome people that you talk to as well.
And just a small comment on the whole destruction thing, which is basically tied into this whole weird incentive to kill for skill points. If CCP wants this type of thing, there's a lot easier way to do it, and it's about cyclicals and decay. So we might want that in the game.
There may be something coming up about that in Eve Media at some time soon. So, look out for that. Anyway, end of the show. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you very much for all the followers and subs. I caught one of the subs Where is he? Q-Man the Great, thank you very much for the sub, by the way. I did notice that when that happened. So thank you very much. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the show. We have obviously the meta show coming up later on today. That's true, right? That's fine.
I think that's cancelled.
That's correct.
Yeah,
is that cancelled due to coronavirus or what?
I believe the meta
Cancelled due to all the coronas that Mittens has drunk.
Brisk is saying no meta show today.
Oh shit!
Oh, that's rough.
Do we have
sick in his bunker?
Yeah. Do we have that politics show coming up at any point?
That apparently is still in the works as a podcast rather than as a live show. Apparently they had plans for things at some point. Mittens is dealing with that stuff. And Reavera is beating Mittens to make sure it happens. So, like, it will happen. We're just not sure when
the
yet.
beatings will continue until morale improves, I guess.
No. That's like... Reavera doesn't give a shit about morale. Reavera gives a shit about results. The beatings will continue until you do the thing you said you'd do.
Until the results are achieved.
Not even safe word will save you.
Oh, damn. Okay. Right, fair enough then. I guess Fireside is going to be on in a little bit, so catch that.
A little bit less than an hour to Fireside, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, make sure you're there for that if you're in the Imperium. But other than that, that's... Or you're a dirty spy, yeah. Other than that, that's pretty much us, and we are going to be going out.
If you haven't managed to get a spy into Ascendance, yeah, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, shit.
For the permit. I don't care if you buy a permit. Do you know how little I actually care if you have a permit?
Complaining about the fact that he received no support from that. I think Bode has some.
Yes, I do.
For us.
Oh, I got some leaks for you.
It's like simple shit like that. Nope, simple shit like that. If he can't answer that,
I need to break in because I need more original every week. That's a goal.
Do you really actually get paid for that? Because you deserve money for that last one. That one was a fucking amazing setup.